Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the May 5th Select Board meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask Select Board Member Duggan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time, I'll accept a motion to approve the Select Board minutes of April 19th.
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. This time, we'll entertain new public business. That is, if there's a citizen who would like to bring new business to the attention of the Select Board that's not on the agenda, we'll welcome that opportunity. Mr. Bradstreet, welcome tonight. Good evening.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Two things. Is there an update on what's happening with LaBelle's Grove? And the other thing is, again, my request for something to be done about multiple meetings. I know every board has meetings, but it's very disappointing that two will be scheduled the same night, different location, same time, so you can't run between the two of them. I would much appreciate if the boards could sit down with someone and decide when they can meet or when they should meet so it doesn't conflict with some other important meetings, because all of these meetings are important. That's it.
So I'll ask the town manager to report on LaBelle's Grove. If he has some information tonight, he can do so, if not later. As far as the meetings go, Bill, there's just too many meetings to be accommodated in the course of the weeknights that we have without collisions. And unfortunately, it's hard to predict which collisions are important to people. We don't put ZBA on the same night as Planning Board, obviously. They have the same kind of work to do. But others, there's just unfortunately not enough days in the weeknights, not enough weeknights to do so. It's also a matter of staffing, too.
I just want you to know, I think about it, and perhaps
I
other
appreciate it,
people
but
too.
I don't think there's an opportunity to make those changes at this point.
You're working on it.
I'm going to suggest we're not working on it. I'm going to
Uh-oh.
suggest that it's past the point of working on it.
All right, okay.
We're not working on LaBelle's Grove either, Bill. Last update on that, we had a volunteer committee put together a conceptual plan, and we need money to execute that plan. So we have a lot of competing interests, a lot of capital projects that are vying for limited resources, and the committee has essentially been, they completed their charge, and at this point, it's a matter of timing in terms of when we think we can afford to move forward with the project.
It's just that when I go up or down 114, I look over and I think, what's happened?
Right.
And again, I can't be the only one.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Hearing none, we'll move to agenda item number 3. The board is in receipt of a revised application by Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School, 565 Maple Street, South Campus, Bonnie Carr, Director of Workforce Development, for a one-day wine and malt license for the Larkin Gala, scheduled due to COVID from October 2021 to Saturday, May 14th, 2022, from 6 to 10. Is there someone here to speak to that? Welcome.
Thank you for having me in tonight. So we did actually have an approval by the Board of Selectmen back in the fall.
Can she introduce herself, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought you said.
I did, but
Right.
if you could tell us.
My name is Bonnie Carr, and I'm the Director of Workforce Development at Essex Tech.
Thank you.
So back in the early fall, when I came and presented in front of the Board of Selectmen, you were kind enough to grant us the one-day liquor license for the event that was to take place in October to promote an event for the Larkin Cottage Restoration Project. And due to the COVID situation then, the advice from the state that we abided by was that large gatherings were really not a recommendation. So we did want to still continue to promote the event, and we moved it to the spring. So all of the information on the liquor license for one day remains the same, and all of the proper signature is on there. So my hope was that we could just get the date moved from October to May.
And so it's the same vendor and the same tip certified staff?
It is, it is. We have all of the information in on any changes that were, a couple of staff had from the tips are in there now. And it is North Shore bartenders
And is
still.
this a private event?
It's open to the public.
Okay, so you might want to take the opportunity to tell us what it is so that anybody who didn't hear it in October hears about it now.
Okay, I'd be happy to. So we have an event on our south campus on the lawn in front of Smith Hall. There is a cottage that was on that property that was the Catherine Larkin Homemaking School. And when the cottage was evaluated for usable space, it was found that a lot of it over the years had been dilapidated and was no longer to code. So we took a lot of the historical pieces and nice pieces of wood and mantle out of the cottage. We found some historical agricultural items as well. So we have those being stored in Smith Hall right now. And the hope and the intention is to rebuild the Catherine Larkin Cottage on campus. As you may have remembered from my previous presentation, I know you have a lot. Catherine Larkin was a local woman from Salem who attended the homemaking school that used to be at Essex Tech back in the 1940s, and then she became an Army nurse and was killed in battle. So this cottage, as the other one had been, will be dedicated to her. She has a family that's in Salem, and they are planning on attending the event. The event is a 200-person gala under a tent outside. We have our food that's being prepared by our culinary staff. North Shore Bartenders is offering paid wine and beer, and we have some takeaways for the guests, like a peanut butter cup from Essex Tech, and we have a DJ and some auction items that were created by our students. We also have an auction that's up right now on charity auctions that people are starting to bid on some other items that have been donated. But it should be a beautiful event, so we are partnering with Events for Rent to put up the tent. They pulled all the permit. DigSafe has been contacted and provided the number to Events for Rent for the tent. So that's the event that is going to be taking place.
Does it require pre-purchase of tickets, or can people do it that day?
Well, the ticket sales are going quickly, so we have about 230 tickets for sale, and we're already up to just under 200. So we're anticipating a few more. We just have to have a cutoff because of the space of the tent.
Understandable. I'll open up to the board for questions. Select Board Member Mills.
No questions. Good luck.
Select Board Member Duggan.
Yeah, I recall that you visited us in the fall, and I've been out to Essex Tech, and I recall the cottage was in quite disrepair. The foundation that's there at the lights today, is that where the cottage is going to be moved to?
Yes, so that cottage is under construction right now. The majority of the work is being done by our students. It will be a multi-use facility, mostly an agricultural museum, and then we'll have some function space for any events that we might have at the school. We have poured the foundation, and the first floor is not completed, but the floor of the first floor is done. All the floor joists are in there, so the kids from carpentry, construction craft labor, masonry, and the landscaping students have been working together on that project, and the plumbing students as well.
Well, that's great. Well, I wish you continued success with that project. It's quite a tribute to Miss Larkin, and I think it teaches compassion, I think, to the students that are working on that they kind of learn about the history of the school many years ago and the type of people that attended it. So I think it's a very positive message that this project brings to the community. So I wish you success.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Bernard.
Sounds like a great event, Bonnie. Thank you. I remember you coming before us, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Select Board Member Bennett.
Thank you. Yes, price of the tickets and where can you purchase them?
So the tickets can be purchased online through Eventbrite, and I can send the link to the board if you'd like me to do that tomorrow morning. And the tickets are a table of 10 for $1,200 and a single ticket for $150.
Thank you.
And I have no questions. I'll entertain a motion by the board.
Motion to accept the application as revised.
Second.
Motion made and second. Is there any question on the motion? I'm sorry, this is a,
No, it's not.
it's not a public hearing, thank you. Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Public hearing will be held on the Danvers electric poll petition number 2022-0330-1, dated March 30th, 2022, requesting permission for the installation of one Danvers electric pole sole-owned stub pole and associated anchors. This pole is required to provide structural support to back up the tap on pole 1-14. Is there someone here to speak to this? Hi, could you go to the microphone, introduce yourself again, and let us know what you're looking for.
Hi, I'm Ed Bandar from Danvers Electric. I'm a distribution engineer there. I'm just here today to represent the interests of the utility in setting this pole. I don't know if anyone's driven by Route 114, but the pole across the street has a considerable lean, and, you know, to prevent potential extended outage for a large portion of the town, it's in the best interest that we set this pole to structurally support it. Do you guys have any questions?
I'll start with Select Board Member Duggan.
Well, thank you. So I think we just saw you here recently, right, with some other polls, so you've been busy with
Yes.
the polls. So, kind of just the same type of question. So this existing pole in the corner there, 14, is that's owned by the Danvers Electric?
It's a joint-owned pole.
So Verizon also has wires on there?
Yes,
Okay.
but the way that it is, they actually have a dead end on MacArthur Boulevard on the one pole up. So that's why it's an SO, because they just go tangent along the line. And so,
What's an SO?
a sole-owned pole, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So this is a very busy intersection with the traffic lights coming out of the kind of the mall there with Trader Joe's. So will the pole interfere with like sight lines at all, or will people not really notice it?
I don't think people will notice it. It's kind of, it's right in between Kane's World and the old Burlington Coat Factory.
Yeah.
It's not exactly.
Oh, I see. Oh, I was thinking it was further down the street. I see where it is. Okay, right on the corner of the Kane's
Yeah.
parking lot. Okay. All right, I don't have any questions. Other
Thank you.
questions?
Select Board Member Bernard.
No, no questions.
Select Board Member Bennett.
Thank you, yes. You mentioned outage, that's a,
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, you know, if the
no,
pole.
I understand, but it wasn't too long ago that the Peabody stretch of 114 was without power for a long time. Are you connected to them at all, or is it dead at the Peabody line?
We're not connected to them.
Not connected, okay, so that's why you didn't lose the lights and they did. That's a good thing. All right, no questions, thank you.
Select Board Member Mills.
No questions, but it sounds prudent and good planning to me.
Thank you.
Just, just so I understand, what is a stub pole and how is it different than regular poles?
So a stub pole is essentially, its only function is for guying, for loading for a pole has use. I mean, its only use
Okay.
is support. So there.
It's not a paired pole, is it, or it isn't two together, or?
No.
Okay.
It's just a single pole with an anchor and a guy holding it back, and then another support. It's basically when you can't set an anchor in a certain area, you may set a stub pole instead.
I see.
And run it across, because obviously we can't set an anchor in
On
the middle.
114, yeah. Okay, that's my questions. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to ask a question about this? Mr. Bradstreet, welcome.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Between the poles, is this one of those wires that has a tendency to drop?
No, sir. It will be it'll be like a piano wire.
Okay, the only other thing is the pole long enough. I know you have different length poles in different areas because of problems with, I don't know, the drop or what have you.
Yes, was because of the nature of the wire that's going across the street to provide tension. Like I said, it would be very tight, and I believe it's a 40-foot pole, so it'll be at the top. So it'll be about 34 feet off the road, 33 feet off the road.
So high enough so that there shouldn't be any trucks taking it out, or?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? I'll entertain a motion to close new business.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to close new business. Any questions on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion on the application.
Hey,
Hold on one second. Entertain a motion on the application?
Motion to approve the installation of one Danvers Electric solely owned stub pole as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a nice one.
Next, a public hearing will be held on the application of RED Donuts, or Red Donuts LLC, doing business as Dunkin', 153 Endicott Street, Roy Serpa, owner, for a transfer of common vicular's license at that location. Madam Clerk, I'm assuming all paperwork is in order?
Yes, all the paperwork's in order.
Thank you. Welcome. Could you
Hello.
introduce
Welcome.
yourself?
Hi, I'm Roy Serpa, the new owner of the Dunkin' Donuts at 153 Endicott Street in Danvers. We took over recently. There'll be no changes. We're local franchisees anyway. We just had the opportunity to purchase that location, and we did. We purchased the business and the property.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll start with Select Board Member Bernard.
No, that's good, Mr. Serpa. Good luck with the Dunkin' Donuts. We love it.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Bennett?
Thank you. So I understand there's privately owned Dunkin' Donuts or franchises. Can you, what is this?
So we're a franchise.
You're a franchise?
Yes.
And you're just
And,
buying another location?
We're buying another location. We have
Okay.
some locations in Beverly and some of the surrounding towns, but the first in Danvers.
Okay, all right. First on Danvers. Okay.
Yes.
Well, welcome to Danvers. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
No other questions?
Thank you.
Appreciate
Select
it.
Board Member Mills?
No questions. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Duggan?
Thank you. Can you just expand a little bit on, you said you bought the property, so what does that actually entail? Is it just the piece of land that the Dunkin' Donuts is sitting on, or is it a larger portion of that lot?
It's that whole lot.
So it's the kind of the drive-through and
Yes,
and
the whole
the
entire
driveway
lot,
around
yes.
the back? Okay.
Yes.
I think the business is run very well from what I've seen over the years, so I'll assume that you'll keep up the
I
good
hope.
work.
I know the previous owner very well. I've known him for 30 years.
Yeah.
We'll try to keep it up. We will.
Well, and I say that specifically about the traffic. So oftentimes we find Dunkin' Donuts that have drive-throughs that the queues, especially in the morning, they kind of tend to go out onto the public roadways, and that's been an issue. It interferes with the smooth flow of rush hour traffic. But your site seems to somehow absorb all the vehicles. I don't think I've ever seen them out onto the roadway.
We're very fortunate. That site's very big, so the queue line is much larger, much longer than most
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts. Some of
Okay.
them it's a very tight,
Yeah.
tight parking lot. But that has quite a bit of
Yeah.
queuing.
And you
So-
have a lot of parking too out on
Yes,
the front,
yes.
on the frontage
Yes.
there, so.
Yeah.
All right, that was all, the only concern I had, but I wish you
Thank you.
success
Valid.
with
Thank you.
your new venture.
And I have no questions either. This is a public hearing. Is there any member of the public who would like to ask about the applicant?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion that we approve the transfer of the common vicular's license at that location.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a
Good
good
luck.
night.
Agenda item number 6, the board will review and consider adoption of a joint resolution with school committees to support reinvestment in the Danvers Public Schools. At the FinCom meeting, this is related to the warrant article that the Select Board passed 5-0. And at the Finance Committee meeting, it was also passed, not unanimously, but there was a lot of public input and a lot of good public debate and discussion. And often comments were, how do we know any savings realized by this warrant would be put towards the schools and not into the general fund? Fair question, a good question, from which the town manager drafted and passed between myself as the chair board and the school committee chair, Mr. Crane, language that you have before you now for the board's consideration. And if you'd like, I can read it. It should have been in your packet. Did you get? We'll get copies.
I was confused.
got
There
one,
was
right?
another
I have one.
resolution.
got
Yeah,
one.
Dan has one, yeah.
Well, it was sent out electronically. Wasn't in the packet.
Well, the resolution I received by email was just the resolution of a civil rights investigation. That was the only one
That's
that I
not,
saw.
that's not it.
Okay. All
No.
right, well, I can't really speak to this because I don't really.
Well, we're getting
I
copies,
don't
and you
think
can,
Mr. Mills has it either.
we're getting copies. We'll
Okay, that's fine.
let you decide.
We can share if you want.
Kathy's getting copies.
They will have it in a minute here.
Thank you.
And I didn't, I went to the FinCom meeting, but I don't think I stayed to the very
This
end.
wasn't present at the FinCom meeting.
Oh, it wasn't?
This was
Okay.
subsequent to that, after hearing some of the concerns and comments of the public. This
For
was
Essex Tech.
about Essex Tech.
Okay, so I did sit through that, yeah.
Yeah. From that conversation came this joint,
I
a
see.
discussion about this joint resolution, and I'll read it, you can read along so the public knows what it is. This is a resolution in support of reinvestment in the Danvers Public Schools. The context is, the information below is in reference to Article 5 of the 2020 Annual Town Meeting. While Town Meeting will decide the outcome of the article, the following is pledged to strategically and transparently reinvest any resulting savings back into the Danvers Public Schools. The background is Danvers is one of 17 member districts at the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical High School. Our town represents 9% of the total sending district's population of 304,486. Over the past 5 years, since FY 2017, the town's proportional share of the student body at Essex Tech has increased from 12.2%, 109 students, to 17.9%, 231. This 122 student increase represents 61.3% of the total enrollment growth among the 17 member districts over this period. And several member districts have seen their tech enrollment decline since FY 2017. Since FY 18, the town assessment from Essex Tech has increased from 2.16 million to 3.87 million next year. This is a $1.71 million increase, represents 11.3% of all new spending by the town on all service areas during this period: public schools, public safety, recreation, health, senior services, library, etc. In FY 2021, the town required new spending on 180 students at Essex Tech for a total of $570,000, was essentially equal to the actual increased spending on 3,400 students attending Danvers Public School, $578,000. On May 16, 2022, town meeting will consider a proposal supported by both the Select Board and Finance Committee to phase in a recalibration of the town's enrollment and spending at Essex Tech to the 2018-2019 levels and hold those levels through 2028 to 2029 academic year. This recalibration will free up considerable resources each year that can be strategically and transparently invested in the Danvers Public Schools to improve school culture, enhance programmatic offerings, reduce and rebalance class sizes across the district, and eliminate certain or all student fees for the benefit of 34,000 public students, 3,400 public school students who are serving in the district, without impacting the Danvers students who would still attend at Essex Tech. Our promise would be, should this proposal be approved by town meeting and enacted by the legislature, the Danvers Select Board and Danvers School Committee hereby commit to work in partnership with each other, the Finance Committee and town meeting, to ensure the realized savings achieved through this recalibration are, in turn, reinvested in the Danvers Public Schools in pursuit of the above-mentioned goals, and any other goals that may be identified by stakeholders and supported by the school committee through the process. We further commit that these investments will be developed, presented, and documented separately in the budget process, so that stakeholders can easily identify the dedicated resource for any desired outcome from these investments. And it would be signed by depending on the passage tonight, by the Select Board and by passage by the School Committee as well, and by the Danvers Finance Committee. So we are asking the board to consider adopting this resolution in support of reinvestment into the Danvers public school systems should the warrant article pass and should the legislature pass. We'll specifically earmark the savings and enumerate them separately as a budget issue, as a budget items. So I'll open it up. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you. Just to bore you for a minute, and I'm going to read the last page of the Town of Danvers Town Manager Act, last paragraph. Before making recommendations under each article of the warrant, the Finance Committee shall hold public hearings in relation thereto after first notifying the selectmen, town manager, town meeting members of the time, place of such hearing. The Finance Committee shall report in writing to the town meeting all of its recommendations under the various articles of the warrant. The recommendation reported by the Finance Committee under any article shall be treated in the town meeting as a motion under the article. The recommendation shall be subject to an amendment by a majority of town meeting members voting on the motion to amend. If there shall be a majority and a minority report of the Finance Committee, the minority report shall have precedence over all other motions to amend the report of the committee. So to be very clear, the role of the Finance Committee is to make recommendation to the town meeting body. They don't make recommendation to the school committee. They don't make recommendation to this select board. They make it to town meeting. We approve or disapprove any article and send it to FinCom for their discussion. The other night at the FinCom, it was clearly stated by the chairman to the chair of the school committee and this select board to come up with a resolution to dedicate funds. That's not how this board sets policy. We deliberate on policy, we review it, we discuss it. We even take 2 and 3 meetings to come up with the goals for the town manager. We don't do it one night. I say this is bad precedent. We've had no discussion on the future impact on the entire budget. We have no idea what it will be. This is just a ploy to garner support for a questionable article that may or may not pass at town meeting. But certainly at the legislature, it has slim to no chance of being adopted or approved. I think we're really overstepping our role and pushing this through to the town meeting body without proper discussion, analyzation. The school committee has every right to make their budget. If they need 8 teachers to fill 8 classrooms, they have every right to put it in their budget and bring it to us with a request. If we can't afford to pay for the budget of the school committee, if we're that short of funds, we can go to the voters with a 2.5 override to fund the schools. But just to take and earmark funds without any dedication, without any commitment on what this money will be used for, I have a problem. And also, how can we tell future boards how to best invest our funds going forwards? It's our budget to approve and expend and send to FinCom for their approval and to town meeting. We're doing it backwards. This doesn't even warrant a motion, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that concern. What you read in the Town Managers Act is not being usurped. The Finance Committee met, they made a recommendation. They will make a recommendation to town meeting. They will make a favorable recommendation to town meeting, as a matter of fact. What this is to address the concerns by citizens who said, how can we be sure that the money that is saved is redirected back to the schools? It's a fair question. This is just a resolution in support. It is to say that we understand the question and we're not changing anything about the warrant article that is going forward, other than to say, we hear your concerns and we're taking notice that we're going to go in that direction. Mr. Town Manager, did you have?
I'm really not talking about the article itself.
Well, you started by quoting the last section of the Town Managers Act, which was all about the motion itself.
To move it to procedure, to move it to the town meeting body, not back to us to
Mr.
come
Town
up with a
Manager?
new resolution that does not fit in with how we operate.
Mr. Town Manager?
With respect to the Town Manager Act, the recommendation that Finance Committee has made to town meeting is to support the home rule petition to cap attendance at 40 per year for 6 years. The resolution before this board is non-binding. It evolved through dialogue between town meeting members and residents who were present in the Finance Committee. It was a suggestion by the Finance Committee. And it is at the discretion of this board whether it wants to indicate whether it would support that or not. Obviously, town meeting has the ultimate say in any expenditure. This was developed in partnership with the chair of the school committee to indicate responsiveness and understanding what the question was. But the Town Manager Act is not impact. There's no impact in terms of what was raised.
So,
Well, I didn't suggest there's impact, and I'm suggesting that the FinCom's role is to pass on to town meeting.
and it did. And the chairman made a recommendation, made a suggestion that the school board, that the school committee and the select board make a statement about what they would do should this pass.
So really,
He
this
made a
is-
statement. He didn't make a binding resolution. He didn't make an amendment to that warrant article. There was a lot of discussion at it. A lot of people said the selectmen should do this, the schools committee should do that. He, as a participant in that debate, made a suggestion, but he was not the only one who was making suggestions. How do we know that money will not, where that money will go and not go specifically to the general fund? And from that, this, as the town manager said, this is a non-binding resolution that says, we hear your concerns, and if this were to pass, we've been saying that the money that we're trying to save is to make our school systems better. That you can't improve the school systems by draining additional money and unprecedented money out of the school by sending it to the tech. And all we're asking for is legitimate and responsible and reasonable and predictable amounts each year. And if that were to happen, then the money that we are not sending to the tech, that added amount, would be reinvested specifically and directly to the schools for the improvement that we're all looking for.
We already approved their budget. They came to us with a budget and they told us what they wanted.
And the Essex Tech
and
is
we gave it to
outside
them.
that budget.
Well, you're asking for this money to go to the schools in the future, which let the school committee and the administration tell us what they need. We've always approved their budgets. We
Mr. Town
don't.
Manager?
Just as a point of clarification, Select Board Member Bennett is correct that this board cannot bind future boards to anything. Obviously, when we issue debt service over 30 years, we are binding future boards and town meetings to a certain obligation. This is a non-binding resolution. This does not commit or require future boards to take any particular action. I didn't have an opportunity at the Finance Committee meeting. Finance Committee member Sally Calhoun made a comment that I had wanted to respond to that night and I didn't get a chance. She said that the school budget, our public schools have always been provided whatever they've asked for. And I want to make a very recent example of the difference between the tech and the Danvers public schools. The year that our assessment increased from the Essex Tech by $647,000 going into the pandemic, our schools reduced and revised their budget 3 times, cutting close to $500,000 out of the budget to make it work. We made a similar request of Essex Tech. They didn't take a nickel out of their budget. So the budgets that the schools present to town meeting are always supported. But the work that they do to get that budget to town meeting has always been in partnership with the town. When our health insurance increases by 10%, they have annually made adjustments so that we always have a balanced budget. And I had intended to share that the night of, but I wanted to make it understood. Our schools haven't received anything they've asked for. They've worked with us every year to make sure that their budgets fit within Prop 2.5. And in recent years, that has been the discretionary dollars for every department has gone to Essex Tech. And I just want to be very clear about that.
But going into the COVID, all departments cut back. All departments made some sacrifice so that we could anticipate loss in revenue going forwards during the COVID pandemic.
But I would say annually, our schools come in with a budget that starts in the 5% range. They've averaged 3.3%. So they do each year come in and make adjustments to their budget as the budget
I sat on the
process evolves.
school committee. I know how they operate.
Any other comments, Mr. Bennett?
No, happy to hear my fellow board members' thoughts.
Mr. Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I need to back up for a minute to the concept of the taxpayers of Danvers subsidizing the educational cost for students who attend Essex Aggie. I live across the street and have for 52 years. Paid my real estate and dog licensing fees timely, have willingly participated as a town meeting member and otherwise in the construction or reconstruction of school buildings for the benefit of the students, which probably total up to $1 billion. I have participated in funding for our public schools, surely in terms of $1 billion. I love our public schools. My mother was one of 10 immigrant children of Polish immigrants, and they all attended Danvers Public Schools. I had, oh my God, I don't know how to turn that thing off. I hate when that happens. So I went to public schools for 8 years and had the best education anybody could possibly have. I love our schools. I don't have children of my own. I have always cared for the school children of Danvers. Under the formulas that we have been discussing and considering the additional monies that the Essex Aggie looks to the Danvers taxpayers to pay, from my simple calculation, it means that the Danvers taxpayers are paying $16,000 to send some students to a private, non-Danvers public school. And to me, it feels as though I am being asked to subsidize a parent's choice to go to a school system other than the one that I have been paying for the last 52 years. So at the outset, before I get to this resolution, the relationship between the town's money, Essex Aggie, and the Essex Aggie demands protected by the legislature for these additional funds to be subsidized to Essex Aggie by my Danvers taxpayers and the group that I associate with. I'm 79 and a half. We've paid and paid and paid and paid. And I'm asked by other people, what does this all mean and how does this tally out in fairness to me because I have paid my dues for 50 years? So, I don't like the arrangement with the Aggie. I don't like the statutory protection by which the Aggie purports to write its own ticket and write itself into our budget and take money from my taxpayers and me to subsidize something that I think is unfairly balanced. Let me get to the resolution. As an old lawyer, 53 years worth, and being active in town government for a long time, I don't think that we, by way of a resolution, can bind the school committee or the next board. I mean, whoever's elected next year on the board of the select board, we can't make decisions for them, nor can the current school committee make decisions for the next school committee, even if they are the same people from fiscal year to fiscal year. I don't think that we can do that. At the same time, is this a healthy thing? My own thought is that if we don't have to pay the extra tab at Essex Aggie, the money doesn't have to go back directly into our school. Put it back into the general fund so that I and my constituents pay a little bit less on our real estate taxes. But if this is something that has been worked about by the school committee and the select board and the finance committee to kind of make the proposed cap article more palatable to town meeting members, I will support it. And I'm also going to support as well as I can the cap on this because I think it is terribly unjust the way it is now, and it should be capped or substantially reduced to some fair proportion so that Beverly, Middleton, Danvers all pay in fair proportion to the students that attend there. And to simply say, Well, we have an unlimited number of students coming from Danvers, so we have an unlimited amount of money demanded from the taxpayers of Danvers. It doesn't feel right to me. I will support the resolution. I will support the warrant article at the town meeting, and I will continue to ask our legislators to do what they can to come up with a solution that is fair to me and the people of my age bracket who have paid and paid and paid. So I will support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Select Board Member Duggan.
Thank you. So I appreciate the spirit that this resolution, the way it was written. But I think the increase in the assessment year over year for the past 5 years or so, I don't think that money came out of the school department budget. So a question to the town manager, through you, Mr. Chairman. The savings that we possibly would receive, is that from the general fund allotment, or does it come specifically from the school department?
Mr. Town Manager, please.
So I'd like to offer a little context first. The town has seen an assessment from the tech in the past 4 years increase by close to $2 million. During this time, we have completely restructured employee health care. We have refinanced and restructured our debt service several times. Every discretionary dollar of savings that we've achieved has been folded back into Essex Tech. 11.3% of every dollar we have spent in the past 5 years has been for the Essex Tech assessment. So when we talk about dollars coming in or out of other budgets, it's all general fund, but we are routinely each year not able to honor requests. We have 11,000, we've put a position in the budget this year that has been requested for 8 years. It's a building mechanic. Our buildings division manages 1 million square feet. They have 12,000 tickets a year that they're asked to respond to for town employees, school employees. It's taken us half a decade to fill that position to be able to keep up with that work. So there are a lot of needs that have been identified by our department heads and our departments and our boards and our committees, LaBelle's Grove being an example. We're at our levy cap every single year. So when we receive our SESD assessment, which we are obligated to pay, our Essex Tech assessment, which we are obligated to pay, our pension assessment, which we are obligated to pay, we sort of start by working backwards to see what's left to fund services, positions, materials, et cetera. And it's a finely orchestrated exercise every single year. So we start with the numbers we have no control over, and then we work back from that. And we are very lucky that the school administration we've worked with for years before I came to Danvers has partnered with the town. There are many communities where they present their budget and say, this is our demand and we need a budget override for the benefit of the kids. And that's not the way our schools have operated. They've tried to find a way to work in partnership with the town to do that. And the spirit of this request, I mean, we've been talking about this issue now for, we've seen these numbers increasing for 6, but they've skyrocketed in the past 3 or 4. And we are fast approaching a point where the system will collapse on itself. We will either be looking at a budget override or a diminishment of services if we continue to spend $500,000 a year on top of the prior assessment to support this, which is why we tried to engage the school in dialogue 2 years ago to see if there was a compromise to be had, and from their perspective, there was not. So.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that information. So in my mind's eye, the school budget is, I don't know, 50% of the total annual budget for the town. So I don't see where this additional several $1,000s are going to make a really big difference. I would defer to the town manager to identify other departments that are more, I don't know, not desperate, but more applicable to needing these funds. It might be the police department, it might be DPW, but at the end of the day, I think we handcuff those other departments or even the town manager to set a budget to present the town meeting. So again, I appreciate the spirit of the resolution, and I do support it, the concept of it, but I think it's not really a good idea, so I will not be voting in favor of this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Select Board Member Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too, it's a little vague, I think, this resolution, when it states that there's several member districts have seen enrollment decline. It doesn't specify which ones, you know, which members, you know. I understand it's a cost to the town. You know, where is the savings? It says town meeting to ensure that the realized savings achieved through this recalibration are in turn reinvested into the Danvers Public Schools. What savings? You know, it's too vague. For me, I am not going to support this resolution. I'm with Mr. Bennett and also Mr. Duggan, and I will make it clear that I am not going to vote to put a cap on the students. I'm not going to tell any parent or any student that they cannot do that. Let it be let it be on the floor at town meeting, but I do not support this resolution at all.
I want to remind the board that you know, we at the last meeting, we took a vote and passed 5-0 that warrant article to place a cap of 40 students per year in the incoming class. That was a 5-0 vote, and I understand that we each may have our differences of opinions, and we may have even changed our opinions at the time. But at that time, the time we took the vote, and what we sent to FinCom was acceptance of that. We agreed, and last meeting we talked about code of conduct, or one of the members brought up code of conduct. In the code of conduct, we support that vote until we get to town meeting, where we are then individual town meeting members and have the right to vote as a town meeting member individually. I'm sorry, I'm assuming you were through.
No, yeah, no, I'm fine. No, listen, I'm listening to what you're saying.
My concern here is that I came from a vocational school. I love vocational schools. It's a part of my upbringing. It's part of what made me who I am. And I would fight to the death the opportunity to be in a vocational school. We're not asking to stop that. We're asking for predictability and accountability by the school that they refuse to give us. They have turned the vocational school into a charter school. They openly market to our 8th graders. They choose the highest MCAS scores. They choose the highest attendance, and they choose the lowest disciplinary students. And that is, they are skimming the cream of the crop from the 8th grade that don't go to Danvers schools, that end up going to the tech. And we're not asking to stop that. We're not even asking to cap at the 9% that represents our population of that school, of the sending communities. We're saying go to 12 or 13%. We're saying, but don't have a open checkbook, which is, as soon as we engaged with the current administration, they not only didn't engage us in discussions, they started increasing. In the past 5 years, 61% of all students that went to that school from the new class came from Danvers. And the savings you're asking about, Maureen, is right here. It said, our assessment of the year is $570,000. If it was a reasonable amount, it would be $200,000 in savings. Not enumerating which communities went down, I don't think is germane to the discussion. I think it's to say that if we got that $250,000, or whatever the number would be, where instead of 58 and 59 and 60, it was only 40, which is still even above the 12%, which is above the 9%, then we would reinvest that into the school system, because the common threads of discussion that we're hearing is, how do we know the money's going to go back to the school? Why are people leaving the school system? Well, part of it is they're being marketed. They get marketed to the Bishop, they get marketed to the Prep, they get marketed to the Essex Tech. They're offered options, and they take these options, and people say, well, maybe we should improve our schools. You're absolutely right, maybe we should work to improve our schools. And the school committee's working to that, and the changes that are happening are working to that. But you can't improve the school system by continuously having another charter school drain your funds without any controls. So this is addressing the concerns of the parents, or the people who say, well, how do we know the money's going to go back to the schools? We're saying that savings will be an earmarked amount to the schools. This doesn't bind us in perpetuity. It says that is our intent, that is our direction. The next board may not have that intent and direction. perfectly willing. Every year, we revise all sorts of conditions that we had made the year before. I find that they have no lack of applications. It's not that the school will go under. It's not that the school will have empty seats. The Essex Tech has a wealth they always have a waiting list. It's they're choosing Danvers students because it is less costly to them.
And wasn't Keith in front of us saying that, they have to start marketing
Yes,
Danvers
they
Public
do.
Schools?
And
So
you
we
can-
talked about that.
Yes, they do,
You
and they
know,
will.
so-
But this is a way of saying you don't have an open checkbook. We've engaged the administration there. We will continue to engage the administration there. We would love to engage the administration there. Instead of engaging us, they shut us down, and they started increasing the number of students they took from Danvers. Yes, Dan?
Thank you. So we were asked today to review and consider a joint resolution,
Yes.
not to discuss the number of students going to the school
There's
or the
history.
cap.
And
This is the adoption of a resolution, and that's where the conversation should stay.
Well, I'm going to suggest that anybody who wants to talk about background for why they're voting the way they're voting is allowed to do so.
Yes, they are.
And that's what I'm doing.
That's fine. But the resolution is what is asked to vote on.
We will. But we've all given an opinion. I happen to be the last in line, and we've all
The
given an
chair
opinion.
always gets to speak last.
Right, I know, I get it. I get it. It's just, we go in rotation.
You go first and last.
And we will talk about the resolution. We will accept a motion or not accept a motion, but we all have reasons why we do things, and I've offered mine.
Thank you. You articulated it very well.
Thank you. So, this is a resolution that the board would have to agree to in majority. Is there anybody who will motion to accept the resolution to support the reinvestment in the Danvers Public Schools?
I so move.
Mr. Mills, is there a second? I will second. Is there any more discussion on the motion?
Yes, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Mills?
The Essex Aggie is pushing us to the need for a 2.5 proposition override or to eliminate public service. Can you imagine facing the horror that we currently do of renegotiating our rubbish and trash removal? If that were eliminated as a public service, can you imagine 3 miles worth of pickup trucks with household trash going up to our landfill? It's a bad deal for Danvers that needs resolution. Will this particular resolution help? I don't know, but I'm willing to support it because in spirit, I think that it aims toward helping the situation that worries me the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion under the motion? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
It fails to pass. Agenda item number 7, the town manager will report to the board on various items of interest. Mr. Town Manager, if I might ask if that could include just a recap by the town clerk on the election as well, please.
Yes, I only have one item, and that is to introduce the guest who has not introduced herself tonight. Mr. Bradstreet has already been heard, but I would like to invite Jasmine Ramon to the podium. Jasmine is our new Director of Equity and Inclusion. She is in the middle of her 3rd week. She has been very, very busy meeting with local stakeholders, some of you, the department heads, getting a sense of the town and the people who live here. We were very fortunate to hire Jasmine. You received this in an email, but it bears repeating. One of 20 candidates for the position, and after the panels interviewed the finalists, there was no doubt in anybody's mind that Ms. Ramon is the person that we wanted to hire, and we were lucky enough to secure her professional services. So welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Jasmine Ramon. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm your Director of Equity and Inclusion. As Steve said, we're in week 3. I'm working my way through the select board. I'm a little more than halfway through, so I invite you, when you have capacity, to take some time to sit with me. Thus far, I'm very much in the listening phase of the job, and I have done a lot of listening. I'm really excited to be here. The welcome has been warm. There's a lot of enthusiasm, which is wonderful, and I'm beginning to see some themes emerging in conversations that I have had thus far. So I'm excited to continue to do that listening. And I've reiterated multiple times, but I'll say it again, that this role is new. I'm bringing it from paper to real life, and I hope to really tailor it to the experiences of a variety of members in town. So I invite you and everyone really, to work with me to decide what this role looks like in real life. Work with me to figure out where I'd be most useful and how I can make the most impact. So that invitation still stands. And again, I'm here. I'm located in the Human Resources Suite. And if I'm not in there, it's because I'm already out meeting with someone else probably. So again, thank you so much for welcoming me thus far. And I'm excited for tomorrow and to keep coming back. So thank you.
Great. Why don't you stay there? Some of us have had the great opportunity to meet with you, but some have not. So I'll turn it over to the board for comments. Select Board Member Bennett.
Thank you. I did meet with Jasmine and very impressed, and I'm sorry that Monday at the Danvers Cares, when you were introduced, the Zoom connection didn't work for some reason.
I heard.
Yeah, so I missed that. I'm very sorry. I did try to Zoom in, if you will.
Yeah.
But welcome to Danvers, and we look forward to working with you going forwards.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I met with Jasmine, and it was a very, very, very exciting meeting because I am impressed with her spirit. I'm impressed with the initiative that the town manager and our welcoming committee of a year or so ago have taken the incentive of doing this kind of work in our town at this time. I know that some other communities in Massachusetts are similarly, but they don't have her, and we do. And I think we're very fortunate, and I enjoyed our meeting very much today, and thank you for your courtesy.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Duggan.
All right, thank you. So Jasmine has reached out to me, just, we haven't been able to set up a time to actually meet, but I'm looking forward to sitting down and talking to you for a little while. But I have gotten some positive feedback from some residents, and they appreciate your enthusiasm. It's kind of almost contagious that, you know, it's kind of what we need, kind of a breath of fresh air with a different perspective that can kind of, you know, take a look at Danvers and where we are today and where there's areas for improvement. So it's good to have you on board. I think it's been a long time coming, so I wish you success in this new role.
Thank you.
Thanks, Select Board Member Menard.
Welcome to Danvers. You and I are going to put something on the calendar, and I, too, have heard positive feedback, too. So thank you very much for what you're doing so far.
And I had the good opportunity to meet with Ms. Harlan this morning. We had a very, I felt, fruitful meeting. I enjoyed it very much. And if we could harness her and the library director's enthusiasm, we could get rid of Danvis Electric. We could power the town. So I look forward to many of the ideas we discussed and thoughts we had, and the invitation to engage me at any point is open and heartfelt. So welcome.
Thank you all again, and I'm glad you're hearing positive things. In the event that you wouldn't, for whatever reason, I also want that brought to my attention. I remain open for feedback, and I know I'm already learning a lot from you all, and I hope to continue to do so. So thank you for the opportunity.
That's great.
Thank you.
Jasmine.
Thanks.
Mr. Town Manager, anything else?
That's it, thank you.
If I could indulge just a moment of the town clerk's time to discuss the election and some items of interest, as it were.
Sure, thank you. So I'm going over now the results from the annual town election. I was hoping to have things finalized today. I'm very close. I want to go through them one more time, so hopefully I'll have everything posted tomorrow morning. There are several precincts that will have to caucus to fill a few spots and to determine, in one precinct, there are a tie for the 3-year term and a tie for the 2-year term. So they'll have to caucus to decide who's going to get the 3-year and who's going to get the 2-year. And then there are still a few holes in some other precincts. So they'll caucus prior to town meeting, and I'll get that information on the website, hopefully early tomorrow morning. And then the other thing I wanted to do was just to put some thanks out there to the police department, the DPW, the school department, some of the town hall employees who helped me out that day. And we had some community service students from the high school come and help us, so they were sprinkled throughout the field house, giving us a little bit of excitement for the day, and that worked out well for the poll workers as well. So everybody seems to enjoy that. So we're going to try to continue that collaboration with the high school. It benefits everybody. And it's a true team effort, and we can't do it, nobody can do it alone. You have to do it together, and everybody knows their part, and we can rely on them. So I thank all those departments that helped me.
I'll open it up to the board for comments, if they have any. Select Board Member Mills?
Just thank you, Kathy. I just think you do a wonderful, wonderful job and do a great job of coordinating all of the other people that have to work together to make our elections smooth as silk. Thank you.
Thank you, Select Board Member Devon.
Thank you. I'll echo that as well, because it's just, it was my, my view of what I saw on Tuesday was just a very efficient operation. People were able to get in and out, not just the parking lot, but of the building. It was very seamless. If people had questions, the staff, the poll workers were, you know, readily available to help out if anyone wasn't sure exactly how to do the voting process. So I think that's kudos to the town clerk and her staff. Just preparation is always key in that type of event. Planning, I'm sure, of many weeks and months went into it. It probably doesn't look that way, but I know there's a lot of activity that goes on behind the scenes prior to the event. So, thank you.
And I am going to second or third that. Kathy, you did a great job, you and your staff. It's a lot of work, you know, what this woman and her department do. You know, a lot of, I'm sure, nights, weekends. But thank you, and like, you know, it was really nice of you to thank everybody, too. You know, all the police and the workers, and, you know, the poll workers and the students, and it ran very efficiently. You know, you're in there, it was safe. But thank you very much for what you do for our town. Great job.
Select Board Member Bennett?
Thank you, Kathy, and your staff for a job well done. It was a seamless operation. Out front, I don't know, behind the scenes, you handle that. But thanks for all your help. And it's interesting that we have those ties. I wondered, and I saw those numbers, and we have to go caucus, and good luck to those people vying for 3 years versus 2 years.
Yep.
It'll be interesting. Thank you.
And I want to thank you as well. I learned a bunch of stuff in this election, only because I haven't had to deal with it in the past. I learned about the write-ins and the process of write-in, that there's a lower limit. There has to be a number, at least 10, I believe you said,
Yes.
to be written in, and the process of write-ins. And there was actually quite a few write-ins across the precincts, because there was open slots that people may not have realized till quite near the end. There was some public outreach on social media suggesting that people want to get in there. And in that same vein, aside
Are phasing out, they're kind of finishing up. We'll hear more from the state shortly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The board will consider the consent calendar as they appear on the opposite side of the agenda.
Motion to accept as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Correspondence, Select Board new business, previous new public business, and Select Board closing comments. I'll start with you, Mr. Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to mention that the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee has met with Jasmine, our new officer, and is thrilled that we have such a person in place and that the person is her. Eileen Page, oh my heavens, Eileen married, and I don't know her married name, has been the coordinator of that committee for, I think, 14 or 15 months, and has done a masterful job. The committee is now in the process of planning its year and its activities. One of the principal activities coming up to the month of June will be Pride Month, and heavens, there is the flag-raising ceremonies at the police station, at the town hall, and at other public buildings that is going to be taking place at or around June, around June 4th. As far as rainbow flags, I always have a supply of them. If anybody in the town would like a rainbow flag, they can notify me through my email address at the town hall, and I will deliver one. While we're on the topic of marketing human rights and inclusion, at the front of the podium, I don't know if it is visible on the television, if I may just think of it. Bill, could you hold that up, please? The Human Rights and Inclusion Committee published this Unity in Our Community board during COVID. And unfortunately, like many other things that went down the COVID drain, the distribution of this was not as effective as we hoped. I have some at my home. Jasmine has some in her office. If anybody in the audience or in the room tonight would like one for their home, please be in contact with us. We think that it was a great project, and unfortunately, it didn't go forward the way we wanted. And otherwise, that's all I had to offer, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanna. Appreciate your service.
Thank you, Bill.
It's like we're Member Duggan.
All right, thank you. I have 3 items here. The first is continued mention of the town's website. The second is COVID metrics, and the third is e-bikes. So at our last meeting, we kind of had a brief discussion of the town's website, and since then I've had a couple of people give me a call, and they kind of concur with, I think, a common perception that the town website needs some upgrades. And one of the problems with IT and web developers, is that they sometimes think that they know what's best for the users, and it really should be the other way around, right? The user should dictate what the experience is like, the user experience. I think today, town employees, they look at the website as kind of a repository for documents. There's not really a naming convention for files, and so when users try to do searches,
Sorry, I can't help you.
some agendas might have abbreviations, like the 2 letters of the group. Some agendas or minutes may just have the date as the title of the document. So I think our IT department should really think about involving the public early on. Maybe increase the number of e-bikes, which are, the battery powered. They're battery assisted, so the user still has to pedal, but there's an assist there, and there are 3 different classes of e-bikes, 1, 2, and 3. And class 3 bikes can reach speeds of up to 30 miles an hour. And I've actually seen class 3s on the rail trail. Currently, Massachusetts, the Commonwealth, doesn't allow e-bikes on bike paths. They consider them to be motor vehicles, but there's an effort at the State House to change that, to make them to e-bikes to be kind of classified not really as mopeds or motorcycles, but more just as an actual bicycle. And I think there's a danger in that, because our rail trail is very narrow. It's typically 8 to 10 feet wide in most places, and if you're out on the trail, you notice there's a lack of courtesy when all types of bicycles come up behind you. Many don't have a bell, or they don't announce themselves, and so they kind of catch you by surprise. So the reason I mention this is I think there may be an effort to change our town's bylaws to allow the e-bikes on the rail trail, and also on sidewalks, which I've seen as well. So I think it's very dangerous, especially to young children and to elderly people, to have these bikes speed by at, speeds of 20 to 30 miles an hour. I think it's just a matter of time before someone is seriously injured. And so we should, I'm not sure how to enforce e-bikes or the use of them, but that's something that we should be, the Rail Trail Committee, I think, is contemplating what approach is best to kind of balance the needs of both pedestrians and for the users of these bikes. So I think just a work in progress at the time, but we should be aware that this is a potential issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Select Board Member Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to congratulate, all the candidates that won. The best thing that we can say for the town is that we want people to get involved and be a voice, and bring your concerns to the boards. That would be great. I also want to say thank you to the teachers. It's Teacher Appreciation Week for all the teachers in all the schools. Thank you very much with that. And really not much to report, but I do agree with Matt with the COVID numbers. With Massachusetts being in the red, as you can see, I still wear the mask once in a while. We still need to be safe. And let's hopefully that this will, I don't think it will ever go away, but keep those numbers down. But other than that, that's all I have to say today.
I received the same correspondence you all have, and concerning a recommendation to go back to a single polling place, which I can't, to multiple polling places, which I can't support. That decision was made many years ago with support of the person who's asking the questions again. And I think we all eschew the low turnout. We would all love a much higher turnout. The number of polling places is not the mitigating factor there. It's public interest. It's we see and have been able to handle presidential elections where we've had upwards of 60 or 70% of voter turnout, maybe not 78% of voter turnout, and handled very well at that location. It provides a cost savings to the town, obviously, to have one polling spot over 8 polling spots, and the clerk's office can focus on answering all questions and being available right there at the polling spot when there are questions that come up. People, not just the simple questions like what precinct am I in, but why am I not registered? What, I fell off the census, whatever it is. I've moved from here to there, which do I vote in? Those kind of questions that need to be addressed by the clerk in their clerk's office needs to be addressed immediately. You don't want to disenfranchise a voter by sending them to town hall to get the answer, as we've had to do in the prior to this, or discourage discourage them from going if they don't know they can't get the answers in a one-stop shop, location. So I've also gotten some other emails, and I look to see when the emails come who's included in the email list. Other than that, other than some administrative work, I haven't gotten any other anything else that I think should be brought up to the board. I am excited, and that as we look at the consent calendar, we're returning to a live Memorial Day ceremony on May 30th. We will have a Memorial Day ceremony, including a parade, on May 30th. They'll be forming for the parade at 8:15, so I'm excited that, we're coming back to real life post-COVID times, and look forward to that as well.
Gordon, do you know when the parade will start?
It just says queuing at 8:15. My suggestion is probably 9 o'clock.
You think so?
I'm guessing, I don't know, I would leave it to the town manager and their staff, but my guess would be we're asked to be there 45 minutes early.
Can somebody send us
We can confirm
you
that.
confirm it? I only need 5 minutes to get there, but
Right. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you and Dave are the two few that don't have to drive to get there. So understandable. And I think that was all I had. I'll leave it with Mr. Bennett for his thoughts and then his closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank you to the 10.999% of the people that came out and voted. I was always taught to round up, but that's okay. But thank you, voters, for coming out. It started off rainy, but turned into a very lovely afternoon and evening. So thank you. And with that, when you see a veteran, please say thank you to her or him for their service. Good night, Danvers.
Thank you.